All right, guys. So Tim Walz has been unleashed. They allowed him to get out of the basement and go do his job as a campaigner. It's a very nice thing to see. He's been doing a great job in interviews. So he went to The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and this was a phenomenal interview. So Jon Stewart did not let him get away on points where he disagreed, and they had a great back and forth. Let's watch, and we'll break it down as we go here.
Have you met people that appear to be somebody? Because what I know of people who say, oh, I'm undecided, you talk to them for 30 seconds and you're like, oh, you're a libertarian. Yeah. Like they have what their deal is already set up. Yeah. They just sort of place themselves in this, I don't know yet. Have you felt, what's been an effective argument that you felt has pulled people closer to you?
Well, it's a lot of, the folks I'm talking to on that, they're folks that are probably, they are Republicans, and they say it. A Republican introduces me in Omaha, he said, I can't stand with this guy anymore. That's not the party of Reagan. This isn't freedom, whatever it may be. It's a lot of those folks that are trying to find permission to get off the mega stuff and move over. So they're still listening. They're finding a way.
Is the concern that they have that a Harris-Walz, team would be too liberal, or, do they point to, oh, in Minnesota, you allowed tampons in different bathrooms and trans people were allowed to play sports, and oh my God, we're all going to be communists? Like, what are they?
Our children are eating breakfast and lunch.
Right. Yeah. But what's the barrier? Yeah. What do you find is the barrier to them being able to place that?
Well, for a lot of them, they've never crossed over that line. I mean, it really is, and you can say it about Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and some of those that did show some courage to cross over. They don't agree. These are folks that were told that I'm historically Republican, I'm going to vote Republican, but they don't have a home anymore. And I think for a lot of cases, they hear the noise that's out there, but that's why I'm out there talking to them. We're talking about tax cuts for the middle class, talking about home ownership, talking about the one that I'll tell you really makes a difference, especially in rural areas because it's an older population, expanding home care for Medicare. And not all of a sudden they're like, well, that's a damn good idea.
I got to tell you, that may be my favorite.
It is.
That may be my favorite policy.
Yeah, it is mine.
Because, when you think about, everybody wants to talk about it's the economy, stupid. And sometimes there is a sense that the government is not necessarily responsive, that there's a disconnect between kind of the legislators in Washington and all the lobbyists that surround them and the needs of people in their communities. Yeah. Home health care, child care, elder care, education.
Rural hospitals.
Rural hospitals.
One of the biggest issues. They don't have ambulances in rural areas in some cases, so yeah.
How do you convince them that the things that will be done in your administration will impact their lives in a tangible way?
Yeah, they need to feel it. I oftentimes talk about this as a teacher. The Maslow's hierarchy is self-actualization. You got to have a lot of time on your hands, money to self-actualize. They're worried about, and when they say that they're worried about the economy, believe them, they are worried about the economy, or they're struggling. You can't tell them, well, inflation's down, interest rates are coming down. They need to see the tangible things that will make a difference. So talk to them what a $6,000 tax credit looks like, as opposed to a Trump tariff that would add 20%. These are folks that want to find a reason to not vote for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. We need to give them that. So I think in the midst of this, I said coming out after that opening, it is terrifying watching they're doing, but that's all distraction, the Trump distraction. If he is dangerous, it is serious. He's not going to do any manufacturing.
But it's interesting. If I judge it from, and again, New York's not a swing state, but we see the commercials. We're inundated with the commercials as well, mostly for down ballot races and things like that. But if I were to look at this as an alien stepping into this election, just from the commercials, I would think that Republicans vote on two things: stopping people from coming over the border and stopping trans people from playing sports. Like, those are the only two commercials that I've seen. Yeah. And the Democrats, oddly enough, run on two things as well: stopping people coming in from the border. They've accepted it. Like, all the Democrats that are running for Congress and for other offices here in New York all talk about the border and then choice legislation.
To be fair, that has actually changed since they did this interview. I've seen now two different ads that are actually super duper populist from the Kamala campaign and from the Democrats. I'm not sure which ones are the actual campaign versus a super PAC, but I think I have one in the show for you tomorrow. I think I'll break it down. New Kamala ad that is absolutely brutal. It's one of the best ads I've seen from Democrats. So I'm sure Stewart was right at the time he said this, but they've actually sort of switched up a little bit. And more on switching up in a minute, because Tim Walz did a rally and he was not holding back. He was going to town, not just on Trump, but also now on Elon Musk, which is like, don't hold your fire. Yeah, go to work. And they're doing it.
You would think those are the only two things that are going on that anybody is talking about. So it's interesting to hear that. One, it's more economy.
Well, they ask people to rank the issues where they're at, depending on where you rank it. And look, these guys figured out early, fear is a great short-term motivator. I often say I supervise the high school lunchroom. I know fear works. It doesn't, but it doesn't change behaviors. And I still believe that there's this aspirational piece and really listening to where people are at. In small towns, these are not hateful people, but they're wondering, where did their manufacturing jobs go? Well, Donald Trump shipped them overseas, tariffs and things like that. We need to make sure
he's killing them.
Making the case that, look, here's how this is going to specifically impact you.
Right.
We hear you about this.
But I would think the Democrats are the one, when you talk about shipping things overseas, you know, you would say NAFTA or free trade were the things that really hollowed out the manufacturing base. Now, investment in infrastructure and all that has brought a lot of it back.
Yes.
But that is kind of an albatross around Democrats' necks, which is our trade policies kind of helped this globalization occur.
But that's why the Tim Walz pick was such a good pick, because his voting record in Congress was against outsourcing deals, right? So he actually means it when he says, no, we want to do manufacturing here. And then also, and Stewart alludes to this a little bit, but the Clinton era and Obama era of free trade deals that are beneficial for the corporate brass, the top level, the executives, et cetera, those are no longer the case now. They were then with NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China, and Obama tried to do TPP and wasn't able to do it, right? But since then, we've actually gone in the other direction, and they've used the argument of like national security to move us in this direction by basically saying like, hey, China might invade Taiwan. We got a lot of chips that are made in Taiwan. We don't want to be on the get the shit end of the stick here. So let's do the CHIPS Act and bring chips manufacturing back here. That's just one example. But now we've created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs under Biden. And for all my criticisms of Biden when it comes to foreign policy, domestically, he's by far the most progressive president of my lifetime. So, there was the time when that argument was very potent. The argument of like Bill Clinton and Obama and all these outsourcing deals. And of course, the Republicans did it too, let's be clear. But now we've sort of reversed that. Trump just talks the talk when it comes to stopping outsourcing deals. Under his administration, they lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. But the Democrats are legitimately walking the walk now with these things, with 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. Trump lied about the Carrier factory. He lied about the Foxconn factory. His tax bill, which gave massive tax cuts to corporations in the top 1%, also incentivized outsourcing. So there truly is like a difference now. There truly is a difference now. And even with COVID, right? I think people realized during COVID, we can't be so reliant on other countries for very basic things, like having to ship in all the PPE from China. It's like, we should probably be making a lot more stuff here, right? So I don't care what argument you use to get to the correct position, as long as we're in the correct position. And the Tim Walz pick, what Joe Biden and Kamala have already done, plus the Tim Walz pick, shows a genuine change when it comes to domestic policy and manufacturing policy, and that is very, very welcome.
It's a fair argument, but I also think, too, that COVID rechanged that, the breaking of the chain, the supply chains. And look, we can have fair trade. We produce more soybeans in Minnesota than we're going to eat. We need to have markets for them, but it needs to be fair, making sure the jobs are here. I think that's the one thing when you talk to people about what are their aspirations. They want to have good jobs. They want to have safe communities. They want to have good schools. Because, again, these guys are going to go to voucherization of schools. Where are you going to find a private school in a town of 400 like where I grew up?
Right.
Where are you going to find a hospital?
You bring up an interesting point, because we talk a lot about it's this red-blue divide, or it's these different things. What about the rural and urban divide? Because it really does seem as though policies for one group very difficult to apply to another group. And when we talk about even like with guns, guns in rural America means a very different thing than guns in places where it's more densely populated.
Yeah, but dead children in their schools means the same thing in rural areas.
Absolutely.
And I think that piece.
He's good. This guy's good. This guy's good. He knows what he's doing.
I understand that's happened. I won a congressional seat, the second Democrat in over 100 years, in a red district. Donald Trump won that district by like 17 points in 2016.
Your district.
My district, and I still won again. I haven't changed them. Now, that district has changed. Would I win that district today? It would be a tough race, I think, as compared to where it was.
Right.
But the issues have not changed for me. And I think this issue around guns especially, being a gun owner, responsible gun owners know that you can protect Second Amendment, but your first responsibility is those kids. And you can do red flag laws. You can do extreme risk protection orders, background checks, and you can do getting assault weapons out of the streets. And so, I think we make a mistake on that one.
One of the real first qualifications of being a vice president is obviously rifle safety. I think.
Yes, it is.
I can't think of a vice president in recent memory that used a shotgun irresponsibly. Nothing comes to mind.
That's right. Clever way of going out to the Cheney thing.
How is that? The Cheney thing. Do we really have to do that?
Look, it goes broader than that. Look, Bernie Sanders, Dick Cheney, Taylor Swift.
No.
The shooting? No. Having the Cheneys on board?
No. You can't Dick Cheney or Taylor Swift. No.
He's right. He's right.
We're a big tent.
What country did Taylor Swift get us to invade? No.
What country did Taylor Swift get us to invade? He's spitting.
No, don't you think, though, that, and I do this, I believe this,
yeah.
There is still a core group of folks out there, your point being, and not joke, the don't tread on me, the Reagan piece of this, the libertarian piece, but the constitutional piece,
yes.
There are a lot of people out there. I think Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney give permission to those folks who want to find a reason to do the right thing. It doesn't mean they agree with us. We're not going to take their foreign policy decisions and discussions, and implement those. We're going to take their
promise?
Yes, promise. Yeah.
Okay, but unironically, thank God he said that, right? Because that's what the fear is. That's what everybody fears, right? You bring Liz Cheney, into the campaign. You're barnstorming different states with her. It's like, on the politics of it, I don't see it. I don't. She voted 92.9% of the time with Trump. It's basically like campaigning with Trump. Like you're campaigning against Trump with Trump. Don't like that. What she stands for substantively is bad. And also, it's not. I don't think she has any crossover appeal anymore. She got blown out for her race because Trump and MAGA turned on her. She's not. I mean, you could say maybe she's bringing over some of the anti-Trump Republicans, but like that voter pool, I think, is way smaller than if the Democrats were to hold or expand their own base by leaning into progressive policy, right? And also, as I pointed out, I would lean into the progressive policies, but call it moderate. That's what I think is what I call the Goldilocks zone of campaigning. It's like, just call what you're doing moderate and centrist, but be like, we want free school breakfast and lunch for kids. We want 12 weeks paid family leave and 12 weeks paid sick leave. We want the $6,000 child tax credit. We want to eliminate medical debt. But yeah, I'm a centrist. That's what centrism is. Redefine it, right? So that when people are against you, you say, why are you an extremist? Why are you a radical? I'm a centrist and I'm for these things. You're against these things. You're the extremist, right? I like that framing. But the fact that he said that is good. It's good. So in other words, yeah, we're using her to try to get the votes, but we're not gonna take her foreign policy advice. And that's a wonderful thing because look, let's also call a spade a spade. As bad as it is that the Cheneys are supporting Kamala, you have Tom Cotton, you have Lindsey Graham, you have Mike Pompeo, you have way more neocon warhawk freaks who are supporting Trump. And nobody ever tars Trump with like, well, you're the party of neocons and you're the party of endless war because look at who's on your team. So there's sort of an imbalance in how people talk about it. And it drives me crazy because he also says the most hawkish things imaginable and then people just sweep it under the rug and pretend like he didn't say those things, right? And with Kamala, it's like this is used as just 100% proof she's going to, whatever, start a war with Iran. Meanwhile, Trump said the other day we should bomb Iranians' nuclear facilities, or Israel should. So, but anyway, that great response there from Tim Walz, and from his lips to God's ears. I hope Kamala's listening, and I hope they mean it when they say we're not going to take their foreign policy advice. Because look, this is Jon Stewart remembers covering the Bush years. I mean, Cheney as well. Dick Cheney was Donald Trump before Trump. George W. Bush was Donald Trump before Trump. In every imaginable policy realm, they were not only an epic disaster and a failure, it was legendarily the case, right? And Stewart remembers that. And it's like, let's not sell out everything we're supposed to believe in for a cheap political ploy on the campaign trail. That's basically his point, right? And I think he's correct. We've had this debate the other day about whether or not it's good politics to lean into that.
It's a stressful time.
It's a stressful time. Now, for you, is your day now, you wake up, are they hitting you with, what we get inundated with is the polling data and they're really digging down into each thing. And it is, quite frankly, the 24 hours ratchet up, I think, the anxiety around all of this. Is that what your day is like? Are you protected from that?
Yeah, no, somebody's doing that. They're sending me, whether it's Saginaw, and then I'll be off with tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to be in Madison, Wisconsin with President Obama tomorrow.
But will they say to you, like, we've got the data in, and today, if you don't get Betsy from outside of Bucks County, like, we're done.
No, it's the overarching message of saying, look, we know that suburban women are deeply concerned, as they should be, and I will add to the men here, you should be deeply concerned about the choice issues too. But it's less of that. My job's at this point in time to get those volunteers who are fired up. And look, if you're in this mode and you can doom scroll through things and you can watch polls or whatever, the antidote to that is just to make sure he's never elected again, to go out and do the work, to make sure we elect Kamala Harris.
Action.
And get the work done. Action. That's what my day is.
Right. How different has been being on the national stage from being on, look, you've had a pretty long career in Congress. as governor, now that you're on the national stage, has that changed your ability to do that sort of retail politicking that comes from more local things? What's been the difference?
Yeah, no, I think I'm still doing it. Like I said this, that I have a skill set that I know it.
Right.
I said one thing is I told people, I said, I'm not that great a debater. I was a school teacher, so I'm trained to answer questions. That's not a good debating skill to answer. You don't want to.
I actually disagree with that. In fact, I think he was overcoached and kind of told not to do that, not to answer the questions. But the best debating advice I could ever give somebody is directly answer the questions. Because people can see you're being honest and forthright, and they like that, right? If you're doing the thing where it's like you're asked a question and you talk about something totally unrelated because you want to say something else, that comes across as weaselly. So he actually could be a great debater if he just does the thing he does when he's a teacher.
But I still think that reflection, what I'm most proud of is, and I love this, I think it was Wall Street Journal did it, they did the financial disclosures, and they said, Tim Walz might be the poorest person to ever run for vice president. But surprisingly, teachers, nurses, firefighters, and stuff, it does give me an in with people. It gives me an in to talk to them about this. That why do you think I'm fighting for these policies for defined benefit pension plans, the ability to form a union, to make it easier to be in a union,
right.
Those things, because that's where it comes from.
That's actually a super important point, right? We need more working class people in Congress because they bring that life experience to the table. It's like, I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be on the brink of not paying the light bill. And if you're in that position, you're going to be more likely to want to raise the minimum wage, more likely to support the PRO Act. So, I mean, there's a great point there. It doesn't mean you're immune from lobbyists and corporate corruption and campaign contributions, which is legalized bribery. It doesn't mean you're immune from it, but it does give you more of a chance to sort of, through your own life experience, come to conclusions that are more beneficial for other people in that similar situation.
It's always struck me as odd. I can remember a time, and it might have been in the 2016 campaign or it might have been 2020, where Donald Trump Jr. said about his father, he's a blue-collar billionaire. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. I don't think they make those.
Yeah, the busting it. Look, and all the unions with us, they've got union politics that gets inside.
Why have the unions, though, been more reluctant in this cycle
it's a couple.
to do?
They have tough politics inside those. These are folks
right.
that are directly responsible for their members. And look, their members, some of them split off. The bottom line is, how can you be with a guy who wants to bust a union, not there to make collective bargaining the right, not to make health care there?
By the way, to Tim Walz's point, he was like, it's just a couple. That's literally true. We went through the numbers. I tweeted it the other day. It's like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's like 20-1 or 40-1. Like, so in other words, like 80 to 90% of the unions actually have endorsed Kamala and Tim Walz. And it's like the Teamsters are the big one that didn't. And remember, that's particularly egregious because Democrats voted to save the Teamsters pension and Republicans voted to kill it. And guess what? The Democrats weren't rewarded. So Democrats delivered for them and they didn't deliver back for the Democrats, which is fucking stupid in 1,000 different ways because it's like, now what incentive do they have to do the right thing by you again when they delivered for you and you stabbed them in the back, right? But so many other unions actually have endorsed Kamala and Tim Walz. And it's not, people don't discuss it like that's the case. They only focus on the Teamsters thing and try to build this narrative of like, oh, Trump really is getting the union support now. And meanwhile, even after the Teamsters didn't endorse Kamala, you had like local Teamsters chapters come out one after the other and endorse Kamala and Tim Walz.
You're talking about
some of those leaders did not show
unions.
the courage they needed to.
Right.
The vast majority of union leaders showed the courage of backing us.
But you have the truck drivers and the Teamsters, and they might say, well, I'm pro-Trump, I'll make America great, I'm putting on the hard hat and all that. And he's locked in with a group that wants to bring automation to all those jobs.
Yeah.
And
right.
I don't understand how it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's our job to do it. We got to talk to folks better. We got to learn how to talk to them. We got to get out in there because that disconnected. And I always said this as a teacher, if my kids weren't getting the lesson, a lot of them, it's probably because I wasn't teaching it as well as I needed to. So I am still of the belief that we have to do a better job. I think Kamala's message on the middle class opportunity, you're right. We have we have pages of this.
It's
and
too much.
It's too much. No.
This guy, he's almost too kind. He's a good politician. He's almost too kind. And Kamala's been making the same argument. Like, I have to earn people's votes, bro. I'm not entitled to shit. And here's Tim Walz saying, look, if they're not getting it, then we got to explain it better. That's what he's saying. And that's something I would have said 1,000 times over in the recent past. But certainly today, after seeing Democrats deliver for the Teamsters and the Teamsters stab the Democrats in the back, I look at that and I'm like, I'm a little harsher than they are. A little bit like, what the fuck is wrong with you? They literally saved your pensions and you screwed them. Why would you do that? Right? So they're literally even more understanding than I am. This is totally different tone from like Hillary 2016, who felt entitled to everybody's vote and everybody's support.
You detailed and it helps too much.
How do you get a house? What's a tax cut look like for you? And what's Social Security look like? We start talking to them. Look, the vast majority of union members, the vast majority of middle-class folks know that. So we'll get.
Is there a question, you know, in my mind, I always look at it like since Reagan, we've turned into more of an investment economy as opposed, we've turned away from kind of a labor economy. And I always wonder, you know, we've got little things here. We've got a child tax credit. We've got some home health care. Is there a bigger swing? Because it always seems to me that the working people, the answer to them is always, oh, you need better representation. You got to get a better union. You got to do another thing. How do working people get that seat at the table where they get to participate in the shareholder economy? How come workers are not a part of the shareholder?
You elect folks who come from the middle class. So for example, in Minnesota, it matters to people there. Now you get paid family medical leave. I know in some states, you know, but you get those types of things. And those are the things that workers are asking to have. You make it truly is. When it's easier to form a union, you take home more money. You have a better living style. And I think making sure they see that connection for the folks they're electing. And
what's the proudest thing that you instituted in Minnesota during your time as governor?
Free breakfast and lunch for kids.
He's nailing it. That's the exact right answer. I give him the same answer. He has a phenomenal record, but I think that is the most impressive and most important thing. And look, he brought it up in the course of a minute or two there. He brought up both paid family and medical leave and the free school breakfast and lunch for kids. For the love of God, what I would tell Kamala is literally take just those things he said, and every time you do an interview, say it. Every time you have a rally, say it. Every time you're asked what are the most important priorities on top of your list, say it. Look, it's hard to make predictions like this. It's you know, you got to get into the weeds, etc. But I would say there'd be at least a 2-point bump, maybe a 3-point bump pretty quickly. If from now until Election Day, it's what are our top priorities? Free school breakfast and lunch for kids, paid family leave, and paid medical leave. We're going to look at what Tim Walz did in Minnesota. We're going to do it at the national level. That's what we're focused on. That's our number one thing. And we will do everything we can to get that accomplished. And the Republicans better fall in line and get on board because guess what? Their own voters want these things too. So Tim Walz is out there. He's leading the way. He's showing how to do it. You got this ready-made agenda. He just pointed to his best achievements. 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave, free school breakfast, and free school lunch for kids. Who's against that? Who's against that? Like, very few people. So that's it, Kamala. That's it. This is it. This is what you do. This is what you do. And as I said, pair these things by just saying, yeah, I'm a moderate. That's why I want free school breakfast and lunch for kids. Yeah, I'm a centrist. That's why I want paid family leave and paid medical leave. Right? That's it. That's the ticket. So he did a great job here. And he even handled the thing about Cheney well. Because look, I'm with Jon Stewart. He's like, do we have to do this? That's his way of saying, like, what the fuck are you doing? Don't do this. Like this, I think this isn't helping. I think this is hurting. That's his kind way of saying that. But Tim Walz's response was like, we're not taking their foreign policy advice, which is the best thing he could possibly say. But also, you know, I would tell him, you should be raising a stink internally and saying, I don't think this is a good idea politically. Because, you know, running into the arms of Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney is indicative of going too much for Republican votes and abandoning your base too much. You should actually care more about getting Muslim Americans and Arab Americans and Lebanese Americans that are in Michigan, an important swing state. And we'll cover it tomorrow. There's a new poll on that that's disturbing for Democrats and very good for Trump when it comes to that community. So anyway, there you have it. He did a wonderful job. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.